See you later, some of the news, and hey, how you doing? Some more of that news. And here it is. The United States of America is having a bit of a national conversation about its problem of taking out groups and unfavored populations the president describes as an invasion, and concentrating those populations in camps. Now, although a specific term for that comes to mind, that's actually a pretty accurate term, it's important we don't use it. So then it doesn't sound so bad. The United States of America's Japanese-American internment camps, which I think we can all agree were a terrible yet not uncharacteristic blight on the wavering illusion of American greatness, well, those camps that were bad were referred to as war relocation centers because the Supreme Court decided it was, quote, unjustifiable to call them concentration camps with all the ugly connotations that term implies. Agree. We wouldn't want any ugliness surrounding these internment camps. So let's call these like temporary emergency influx shelters. That's actually what the government is calling these new camps, temporary emergency influx shelters. Missed opportunity with concentration camps, but oh well. Whatever you want to call them, I don't know, seems bad. As much as 155 detainees in cells meant for 35, 41 meant for 8, 76 meant for 12, etc., and so on. A large number meant for a small number, causing, as one would assume, sanitation problems. People standing on toilets just to get some breathing room above the toilet. There are countless horror stories about these facilities, about the guards, the conditions, lawyers and inspectors referring to them as basically torture facilities. It seems bad. Kids separated from their families, taking care of infants they don't know, no diapers, toothbrushes, things like that. The kids in the cages, you know, you've seen. But some of those photos are from Obama, though. Obama started it, you type feverishly in the comments. Yeah, but only kind of, and that's not good, but it's also not a reason to be okay with it now, and it's also not nearly as severe or as many kids because it was only for unaccompanied minors. Not like now where it's kids specifically and deliberately separated from their family, something that's traumatizing enough without the horrible treatment and conditions they're dealing with. And I'm sure you've heard some awful liar of a website or the actual president say that it's Obama's fault actually, but just take 2 seconds to look it up. They're liars. They're lying to you. And I don't know, it just seems like, why even mention Obama if not to derail the whole thing and obfuscate the issue and forgive the cruelty and ultimately not address it? Somebody replies to your comment as you click away and never return. Anyway, this has been our new segment, Thanks, Obama. Anyway, the traumatized, very sad kids have no toothbrushes or soap or blankets, which some could argue violate the Flores Agreement, which since 1997 has set national policy for the detention, treatment, and release of minors in custody, things like safe and sanitary conditions. Others, of course, would argue that Flores is not violated in the case of the toothbrushes and soap and general unsanitary conditions, like this person arguing that.
It's within everybody's common understanding that, if you don't have a toothbrush, if you don't have soap, if you don't have a blanket, it's not safe and sanitary. Well, wouldn't everybody agree to that? Do you agree to that?
Well, I think there's fair reason to find that those things may be part of safe and sanitary.
Maybe, are.
These Trump goons and their Trumpish goonery, disgusting. Also, this is a career employee of the Justice Department and has been since 2011. She actually argued for the Obama administration as well, arguing that solitary confinement for kids doesn't violate the Flores Agreement. So I guess that's actually the end of another installment of Thanks, Obama. But like the tone is different, indicating that maybe despite Trump exacerbating this and being miles more cruel about it, this is just America. But anyway, it seems bad in general, you know? This Justice Department employee in 2018 also defended the new policy of separating migrant children from their families, claiming that it had occurred due to necessity and not for the purpose of deterrence. This, of course, is a real big, provable lie, which brings us to the real reason we're here today. And that's John Kelly, alleged adult in the room and former Secretary of Homeland Security, turned into White House Chief of Staff, turned into a man clearly betting that hell doesn't exist.
If you get some young kids who are coming in, managed to sneak into the United States with their parents, our Department of Homeland Security personnel going to separate the children from their moms and dads.
We have tremendous experience in dealing with unaccompanied minors. We turn them over to HHS, and they do a very, very good job of either putting them in kind of foster care or linking them up with parents or family members in the United States. Yes, I am considering, in order to deter more movement along this terribly dangerous network, I am considering exactly that. They will be well cared for as we deal with their parents.
There we have Jay Kell proposing, as Secretary of Homeland Security and adult in the room, that they separate undocumented children from their parents as a form of deterrent against immigration. A, one could argue, monstrous idea that they've lied about and that people don't like, and also doesn't seem to be working. But also, before his time in the White House, John Kelly had previously sat on the board of DC Capital Partners, owner of Caliburn International, who run the Homestead Facility, aka the largest and only for-profit child detention centers. And so Kelly proposed separating and detaining children, knowing that it would benefit the company he previously worked for. And then he left the White House, and then he joined the board of Caliburn, effectively making money off of the terrible policies he pushed for, having known it would benefit Caliburn, his former and current place of work. And while he's certainly not the only politician making money from the companies making money off of detention camps, he's the only one who made the very direct decisions ruining other human lives in order to gain his personal profit. Like you should pause this video and take a moment to think how history is going to speak of John Kelly, the adult in the room. A room that's full of scared immigrant children he suggested we put in cages, which we did, and now he's making money from it. You know how sometimes you're like, is there an adult we can tell? The president clearly obstructed justice and is unfit for office, but the few people who can do anything about it aren't, and so you're just like, who else can we tell about this? Or like when the president, who's been leading a war on the press and has made comments about jailing reporters and who has praised politicians who have physically assaulted journalists for asking him a question, well then that president dude starts joking about getting rid of journalists with world leaders who have journalists murdered. And he's just, and you're like, who can we tell about that? Like that's not good. Somebody should do something about that. And then you have a high-ranking official who the media and politicians claimed was going to be a sobering, responsible figure amidst the cruel, ignorant chaos of the Trump administration. And that high-ranking official starts a policy that would increase the number of traumatized kids detained in for-profit camps. And that adult leaves and gets a job at the company that profits from the cage up more kids idea. I guess a senator running for president can say, here's my plan to make this not happen in the future if I'm president. But in terms of John Kelly, it's just enjoy it while you can, I guess, or resign for shame on you. And it just seems like the media should be talking about this more, like this specific aspect of it. The kid camp idea haver, profiting from the kid camp idea at the company he was already previously involved in from before he did the kid camp idea. Like, talk about it more. It just seems significant. Ask the president about it. You don't even have to frame it like he and they are all monsters. Just be like, hey, Prez, I know you're really into draining the swamp, and your first promise to the American people was to stop the people in government from profiting when they leave. But here's a dude who's objectively doing that. Regardless of the kid camp stuff, it seems like you'd be against that, bud. And then watch him not answer and weasel out of it and move on and nothing will get done. That will be fun for everybody. But it just seems like, A, this should be illegal. But 2, it seems like a clear signal that these camps aren't going away. And in fact, there's no intention of making them go away. It seems like maybe they're just going to build more and we're going to keep filling them up. And turn a profit from them. John Kelly, the adult in the room and kid concentration camp profiteer, is telling us that the temporary emergency influx shelters are maybe a pretty good non-temporary investment. Seems bad. Seems worth mentioning on the news all the time. Is there like a march, I guess, or call the police? Can we call the police on ice? Is there? I'm just gonna trail off. I think we're done here. Hi, thanks for watching the video. Make sure to do all the YouTube stuff that you know about to do because it's not your first day here. The like button, subscribe, leave a comment, you know. Check out our patreon.com/somemorenews if you'd like to support us. And we have a podcast called Even More News. And end of this.